I'm here camping in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan right now. And yesterday I went on a hike with my son. And we went to the bottom of this waterfall and it was beautiful. And while we were hiking down there, I saw this tree that had fallen over. And its roots were uprooted and it was completely horizontal. And it was kind of on this hillside and it's poking out. And you could see this tree actually turned and made a 90-degree turn and started growing straight up into the air. And it was really cool. It was shaped like an L. And it really just made me think about this idea of resilience and specifically mental resilience. And so I just want to talk to you a little bit about that today. And we need to start with Bandura. And Bandura talks about self-efficacy. And self-efficacy is if you believe that you can do it, right? It's this idea of looking at your past actions and past behaviors and making a prediction on what you can do in the future. And the main thing with the research of self-efficacy is this idea of your belief system is really important. If you believe that you can do something, you will be much more likely to succeed. And in contrast, if on the opposite side of that, if you're like, I don't think I could do this, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy and you don't do it. And this is related to Carol Dweck's research on growth and fixed mindsets. And a growth mindset, if you have a growth mindset, you see failure as an opportunity to learn. And if you have a fixed mindset, you see failure as a limit of your personal abilities. And there's a big difference there, because if you feel that you can't change it, your personal abilities are limited, that you cannot become better, then why try? And that's what happens is if people who adopt that mindset think to themselves, well, I can't do anything any differently, so I'm just not going to do anything and I'll give up. Versus someone with a growth mindset will be like, okay, that did not go well, but let me try this again. And they'll keep pushing and they'll get better and better until they succeed. That's extremely important to foster that growth mindset, because in reality, we have both mindsets. We don't have all growth, all fixed. You have growth and fixed mindsets in different areas of your life, but having a growth mindset is a skill. It's something that needs to be cultivated. And this is related to the research of optimism and pessimism, which actually came before Carol Dweck's research. And people who are optimists, who believe that things will get better, right? They have been shown in research to do better in just about every aspect of life. They have better jobs, better marriages, they make more money, they're healthier. They are just more able to do things because they have inherently that growth mindset where they just keep on trying and they keep on going. And an optimist sees things when they have a problem as temporary and specific. There's a temporary situation with a specific reason. So I didn't do well on this thing because I did not practice enough, or I wasn't feeling well that day, right? Versus a pessimist. A pessimist sees things like, okay, things are not going to work out, right? That's the mindset. But they see things as permanent and pervasive. Like, this thing is permanent. I cannot change it. It's pervasive. I can't escape it. So again, if it's permanent and pervasive, you can't escape it, you can't change it, there's another underlying behavior, which is, why try? You give up. And so when you're having this mental challenge and you're in a spot where you are having permanent, pervasive thoughts, where you're like, I can't do this, there's nothing I can do to improve this, what you need to do is you need to challenge yourself with an optimistic mindset. You need to be able to say, all right, this is a temporary thing and there's a specific reason. So you need to get mentally into the spot where you're like, yes, this is temporary. I will be able to work through this. And then you need to find the specific thing that you need to work on. And that's important because once you find the specific thing, you now have something to work on. You have something to take action on, right? And it's that forward momentum, which is extremely important, because when people are overwhelmed, they often become frozen. They don't do anything. They get stuck. And then again, if you're not doing anything, how do you expect to succeed? And it can be absolutely overwhelming, but it's one step at a time, step by step. I know it's cliche, take one step at a time, but it's absolutely true. Take one step at a time Figure out what that specific thing is that you need to work on. And an optimistic mindset is extremely important. Like I said, it's connected to that growth mindset, but it could be toxic too. You could have toxic positivity where you're always just reframing things to be positive, but you're not taking a hard look at yourself and being like, oh, here are some things I need to do, right? You're finding specific reasons why you failed. And that's good because it gives you this mental release of not having to beat yourself up. And that's hard because a lot of us get stuck in this like self-shame spiral where we're just beating ourselves up, which is not helpful. But it is also not helpful just to be positive all the time and be like, okay, well, it's not my fault. It's this thing's fault. And so I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing. No, you need to be optimistic, but you also have to have your feet on your ground. You need to be optimistic with your eyes wide open, because pessimism ultimately is not a helpful mindset, but it is useful to point out to your challenges. These are the things I need to work on, and here's how I need to grow. And so you need to be optimistic. That's why I want you to build your house, but I also want you to not have your head in the clouds and not paying attention to things. And so that little dose of pessimism where you're like, okay, here's what I need to work on, which leads us to the last thing about resilience. At some point, you need to take personal responsibility that, yes, I am going to make the change. And you need to think about, here's the specific things I need to work on, but ultimately it's up to me, not someone else. I need to do this. And that's extremely important, because another mindset that we fall into that can be challenging is this mindset of self-pity, right? And when you are feeling sad and upset, that is 100% natural and normal. And you should take time to express those feelings and talk to your friends. But what your friends and family are going to do is they're going to be kind to you, right? And with the self-pity mindset, what happens is people are getting positive reinforcement because they're complaining, and their friends are like, man, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. And then so you're getting positive reinforcement by complaining, right? People are being nice to you and people are saying nice things, and people could get addicted to that positive reinforcement. And so I'm not saying that you shouldn't complain and you shouldn't talk to folks. You absolutely need to do that. You need to be able to vent. You need to be able to deal with your mental health. You need to be able to get emotional support from your friends. But at some point, it's up to you. You need to take action and you need to move forward on that thing that's stopping you. So mental resilience is about not quitting, right? It's about figuring out what's the specific thing and how do you move towards that. You need to be like that tree. You fall down, you're lying horizontal, but at some point you need to start growing vertical again, and you need to reach towards the sun.